Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and you are watching the third season of the Crystal Petry podcast. Today, I'm super excited. This episode is for you if you want to figure out how to sell your stuff on Amazon. This is the first time I've had someone come on and educate me and educate the community about this topic. So I'm very excited. Welcome to the podcast, Llance Kezner.
Hi, Crystal. It's nice to be here.
It is nice to have you on because, like I said, I've never had anyone walk us through the steps on how to get our products sold on Amazon or, a platform of that nature. So, Llance, tell us, where in the world are you?
Bellevue, Washington, down the
Excellent.
street from Microsoft.
That's the perfect place to be.
Yeah.
Perfect place to be. Okay, so Llance, before we are recording this podcast, but I want to start out because you recently received some great news about a competition, right?
Yeah. So
So
we
tell
were,
us
yeah.
about that.
Yep. Absolutely. Actually, a year ago, we couldn't talk about it until recently, but
Okay.
a year ago, we were um, given it's called a golden ticket to sell our product at Walmart in their stores. And it's a really big deal because 7,000 companies applied to have their products sold there. And they chose just 70 out of that 7,000 to give a golden ticket to.
Wow.
And we were one of
That's
them.
less than
We
10%.
1%. Yeah, we had to keep it quiet for a long time until we were actually in the stores. But yeah, it's a very delayed gratification.
Mhm. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So you sent me that email and I was like reading and then I went down a rabbit hole. I was like, this is amazing. This
Thank
is
you.
huge. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Now, the name of your product is Millie's Sipping Broth. Okay.
Yes. Hmm.
Now, you created this product during COVID, which was a difficult time for everyone. But out of that difficulty, birthed Millie's Sipping Broth. So, explain to us, how did Millie's Sipping Broth come to life during COVID-19?
Yeah. So my wife, imagine that you're a teacher in a room filled with 24 rambunctious kindergarten students,
Sounds fun.
and you've been engaged with them for hours. All right. You're all looking forward to that recess bell, right? And that's literally where the story starts. My wife Lori, when she was a teacher, she wanted to do her very best, and because she loved teaching, but she knew, and she what she ended up doing was, she needed to have a smart way to recharge between classes
Okay.
in the afternoon. And what she ended up doing was solving this problem using broth and creating a whole new hot drink category. Um, what she would go into the teachers' break rooms in the afternoon between that break, and the only options were caffeine, sugar, or leftover cakes and cookies from the weekend.
Exactly. Exactly.
Not on her wellness plan. She did not, that just wasn't part of the deal. What she craved was something savory to sip on that reminded her of her mom's home cooked meals, her mom Millie. And
Wow. Okay.
so we went, Lori and I experimented in our home kitchen with some dehydrated vegetables, herbs, and seasoning. And we put together a blend that she could, make in hot water to kind of sip on. And she said, put it into a tea bag so I can make it quick. All I have to do, I don't have to measure anything. I just drop it in hot water. And we ripped open Lipton tea bags, put this concoction in there. She took a bunch of them to the break room, and the teachers flipped out over it. And that's the genesis of what we did.
Wow. Okay, so tell us about the first version of Millie's sipping broth. When you're taking out the Lipton tea and you're
Yep.
putting your stuff in, how
Yeah.
did you close the bag back and how did it taste?
Oh, well, okay. So I would not go back and drink what we made because it probably wasn't safe.
Okay.
You know, the Lipton tea bags, they have like a little a staple, that
Yes.
closes it. Okay. So we didn't know what we were doing. So we had to, we thought, oh, let's just staple it again, right? Well, we're
Okay.
using like staples that are probably not meant for human, consumption. They were probably not safe.
Yes.
So we're stapling them together, and we just put them out. We didn't know what we were doing, but everyone loved it. And I think it was safe because, it's 4 minutes in boiling water, and,
Mhm.
you're going to kill off anything that's on there. But it was rough. The idea was very simple, right? Dehydrated vegetables, herbs, and seasoning in a tea bag. How hard can that be to make?
So easy.
Wrong. It took
What?
almost 5 years
No.
for us to be able to scale up to a point where the quality matched the original idea. Making it by hand and then making it in a machine at scale,
Mhm.
two totally different things. And all the while, by the way, not quitting our day job, trying to figure out a place to sell it. Would people buy it? Were the
Right.
pricing right? Was the packaging right? Were the flavors right? Right. So we're trying to do all these things simultaneously.
Mhm. Yes. Okay, so once we get past the teacher's break room,
Yes.
Lance, you and your wife Lori start selling at Farmers Market, correct?
We sold at the Pike Place Market here in Seattle, across the street from the original Starbucks.
Okay, so what made the two of you choose the Farmers Market, if I can call it that,
Yeah.
as kind of your launch spot?
Um, Part of the reason was, okay, so the Pike Place Market gets around 11 million people a year that come into it, which
Wow,
is,
okay.
huge. It's
Yes.
massive. Yeah, we have a huge uh, uh, a lot of people go to Alaska from Seattle on boats, and so there's
Okay.
a huge tourist population that comes through there, and it's very cool. So if anyone's been there, they'll know they throw fish at you. It's a whole thing. Um, we figured if we can test out our idea to people that we don't know, right? All of our friends thought it was a great idea. They thought it tasted great. We
Hmm.
wanted to see if people would actually give us money for this crazy idea in its very simple form. Okay,
Okay.
don't forget, early on, our packaging was not very sophisticated. It
Hmm.
was very functional. Everything was just, was kind of wonky, but the idea was, let's get it as quickly as we can to people who will buy it, and let's just see what they say. And so that was the reasoning behind that.
Okay. So, how did you prepare? How many little baggies did you prepare? Did you sell them or did you give them away because this was your first time kind of launching your product to strangers, people that did not know you?
Yeah, the what we realized really early on, there were two things that we realized. One of them was, once someone tasted it, they kind of were like, "Oh, this tastes really good." So we had to figure out a way to quickly get them to taste it. Um, and don't forget, we're selling broth, and mostly during the summer months. So, it sometimes was like 90 degrees outside. So,
All right.
who's going to want to drink a hot beverage in 90-degree weather? Okay.
You know,
So
let me just interrupt you there,
yeah,
Llance. I always say when people say that, because I love hot chocolate, and this is completely off topic. I love hot chocolate, but I love it year round, whether it's 100 degrees outside or 10 degrees outside. And so
yeah.
people are like, why are you drinking hot chocolate? It's so hot outside. People drink hot coffee
Yes,
and it's hot outside. So I
true.
don't, I don't see. I don't see.
I
I just
think
had to
I
throw
think
that
that
in there.
I think the coffee part is because they want that caffeine boost, and so they're willing to deal with the
Perhaps.
hot part.
Perhaps.
But yeah, so that was the first thing, is getting people to
Okay.
taste it. The second thing was getting our pitch to these people down in literally 2 to 5 seconds,
Right.
because and I can tell you, if you were a vendor on the
Mm-hmm.
street, if anyone's been to Disneyland, the
Mm-hmm.
busiest day in Disneyland, where there are
Yes.
literally thousands of people walking down the street. Okay, that's what the Pike Place Market was on its
Wow.
busiest days.
Okay.
You couldn't. It was all just packed with people. So catching people's attention as they're walking by was really critical. So we literally would do thousands and thousands of pitches about what we were selling, and so we refined it to a point where it's 2 to 5 seconds to get someone to come in and want to taste it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and then get them to buy it, and so that was a challenge. That was a challenge that we put on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that if we could get that down, then we could refine that and keep refining it and then get it out into the market somehow.
Can you tell us what your pitch is? You said it's 2 to 5 seconds.
Yeah. So this is Millie sipping broth. It's broth in a tea bag. It steeps like tea, but it's a hot, savory broth. Do you want to try some?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like
It's
it.
simple. It's simple, and it kind of formulates in someone's mind like, "Wow, what broth in a tea bag? What? Yeah, I got to taste this."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so what did you learn about selling face to face? Obviously, you had to get your pitch right. It had to be, time sensitive because of people walking by. They're not like necessarily stopping. What else did you learn selling face to face?
We got feedback. Okay, so this is also really, really important.
Okay.
You, getting real customer feedback in real time is like unbelievably valuable, because they're telling you without any kind of preconceived notions, right? They don't know you, you don't know them. They're giving you within the first 30 seconds, they're giving you the most honest feedback you could ever imagine, right? Because they have nothing to lose, and you don't either.
Right.
So capturing that was probably the best thing for us. That was the packaging right. Did what we were saying make sense? Early on, we kept calling it a savory tea, and people were like, "Ooh, yuck! That doesn't sound good." Then
Oh,
we stopped saying
because the
that and said,
idea of tea is something else.
exactly. So then we said, it's a sipping broth. Oh, well, that's a sipping broth. It just happens to come in a tea bag. Okay, that's convenient. Um, it took us a while to figure that out, because we thought we were so clever with coming up with a savory tea.
Hmm.
Um, the name of the product was even Millie's Savory Teas to begin with. And we ended up changing it to Millie's Sipping Broth because of that feedback. But you have to you have to kind of set your ego aside a little bit and listen to
Hmm.
what they're saying. And it was very valuable, and we still, to this day, we listen to really good constructive feedback about what we're doing. And there's some things that are real, that we can address, and some things that may be coming in the future, or things that we've already tried out that just don't work. In fact, yesterday I was on a presentation, and someone said to me, Why don't you put this in a tea aisle of a grocery store? And it's exactly what you said, right? People, when you think tea and broth are completely different. And
Yes.
it's like this yuck, we don't
Yes.
want that, So that's what we learned, we learned to listen.
Oh, now that's a lesson. We all need that lesson, learning to listen, Lance. That was a lot of L's I just said right there. Okay, so let's talk about how you went from your kitchen to the teacher's lounge at Laura, your wife's school, to the farmer's market to Amazon. I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of steps in between that,
Right.
but how did you get Millie's sipping broth to Amazon, to selling it on Amazon?
So I think that at the time when we came out with the broth, one of
Mhm.
the challenges we had was when we were not at the Pike Place Market, or did we envision being there all the time? That has its own challenges. Did we want to? Because we were only there on the weekends, and it was a hassle. Setting that booth up and taking it down every night, and there was a windstorm that blew. I was holding on to the tent as it
Oh,
blew me. Oh, it was terrible. So, we had to figure out a way to keep connected to the people we had sold to.
mm-hmm.
And by the way, these are people from around the world. It wasn't just, people in our own city. It was people from everywhere. And so, um, at the time, we realized that even our own website would not really, be the answer. So we needed to connect. Amazon was really a place where we saw growth. And so it did take a little while, because we're selling a food product, to get authorized by Amazon. If you have a non-food product, it's a lot easier to get on Amazon than it is with a food product. So
Okay.
we had to provide all kinds of information and documentation about what our company and our manufacturing process. At this time, we moved it out of our kitchen pretty quickly. We moved it into, like I said, it took 5 years to figure out. We kept moving to what's called co-manufacturing facilities, where companies that specialize in making certain things they were making it for us. And
Okay.
we kept trying to find the right people, because a lot of them couldn't figure out how to do it correctly.
How did
So
you
anyway,
find the co-manufacturing? Did you just Google them or did someone tell you about them?
both. It was both. A lot of research, and a lot of, no, we're not interested. We're not interested. I don't, there's no way. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never heard about anything like that before. If you've got something that is already being made and a bunch of people are making it, that's easy.
That's easy,
When
yes.
when you're coming up with something totally new, a new category, a new idea, it's hard. It's hard. And people are not always interested in working with you to find that. So anyway, so that whole part was going on at the same time. But basically, Amazon, we launched our products into Amazon, and we I think what ended up happening was, there were a couple of companies that specialize in taking other people's products and selling it on Amazon. And so
Okay.
they came to us and said, "Hey, we'll buy your products at wholesale, and then we'll start selling it on Amazon." And we didn't know. We
Mm-hmm.
were like, "Okay, sure, that's fine." And so we would sell it to them, and then they were selling it, and they were making an insane amount of money on our products. And we
Wow.
were like,
Would
"Wait a
they give
minute."
you any of the profits, like
No,
a
well, they
percentage
would
of
buy
the
it at
profit?
wholesale. They would buy wholesale.
And they wouldn't give you any percentage
No,
of the
because that's the
profit?
whole point. That's the whole
Okay.
deal.
Yeah.
What they do is they guarantee, when they buy it, they're guaranteeing it. They pay us,
Mm-hmm.
and then they take the risk. Well, what was happening is we were getting all kinds of attention for our product, and anytime there was more attention, I would see their wholesale orders, like doubling and tripling. And I'm like, wait a minute,
Yes.
what's going on here? And I realized that they were profiting off of our marketing. And I thought, well, wait a minute, why aren't we doing the same thing? And so we started edging them out and taking that same, taking the whole profit,
Mm-hmm.
because we were doing all the work anyway. They were doing nothing. They
Yes.
literally were doing nothing. And so that kind of transferred us into that role of being the primary supplier of our own product
How
on
did you
Amazon.
get it from the wholesaler? Did you just stop selling it to them
No,
wholesale?
we became, so on Amazon, you can list any product that has a barcode.
Okay.
So any barcoded product can be sold by the company that makes it or a reseller. And that allows Amazon all kinds of flexibility when it comes to all kinds of things,
Okay.
including antitrust and all this kind of stuff. So we just became one of the resellers of our barcoded product. And oh, by the way, we could start dropping the price because we had that flexibility. So if we dropped it by, let's say, $2,
Mm-hmm.
to us, the profit was still way higher than what we were getting at wholesale. But to the
Exactly.
other company, it started eating into their profit. And so we gently started eating away at their profit and taking their sales. And because we were paying for, at the time, we
Mm-hmm.
were paying for marketing of our idea, and people were going to Amazon to find it. So
Right.
we needed to get a return on that investment. And so that's what we ended up realizing.
How did you get a barcode? Do you just apply for that somewhere?
Yeah, it's called GS1, and they are the standard for uh, the UPC code, barcode UPC code. That's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to buy a block of these barcodes from them, and then they're yours. And so you can use them for the products that you create. And so Amazon requires, especially with food, they require that you have that barcode if you're the manufacturer.
What are some of the documents that Amazon requested or required that you and your wife Lori have to sell Millie's Sipping Broth on their platform?
So the barcode, being in part of GS1, that was
Okay.
that was critical. They had to have all of our business information, so our business licenses. They want your banking information. They want to, and then they had to have, because we're a food product, they needed to see documentation about where it was made, and the certifications of the facility that it's made in, and any claims that you have on the packaging. So if you had a claim, like for instance, we have a claim that says it's kosher. So we have
Mhm.
a kosher certification. All we have to do is show that certification to Amazon, and then they're okay. Now, what's great is Amazon has actually been able to help us get other certifications that they give to businesses as well. We're a women-owned business, so
Mhm.
because my wife, so we have a women-owned certification that Amazon helped us get. We're a small business, so Amazon helped us get a small business certification. So they really have encouraged us, to and had helped us get certifications that their customers are looking for as well.
How long did it take you, Lance, to get on to Amazon where you and Lori are physically selling your Millie Sipping Broth? I know earlier in the conversation you said it took a while. About how long was that while? Are we talking a year, a
I think
couple
it
months?
was about a month.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's faster to sell something that's not food than it is to like, I think you could get, if you're brand new and you have
Mm-hmm.
your business license and you have all your banking set up, I think you could get up and running on Amazon within 2 to 3 days if you
Okay.
have a non-food product. Um, Otherwise, yeah, it takes a little bit of time. I think now, and this was a while ago, I think now it takes a lot longer because there's a lot more scrutiny around what's going on. But and here's the other thing too. They're very cautious about how you operate. And so if there are um, things that are suspicious about how you operate, they'll shut your account down really quickly. So you have to not only maintain a level of integrity,
Mm-hmm.
in what you're doing, but you have to keep up with what they request and require as a seller.
Well, as a consumer, we all say thank you. We all say thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, they shut down accounts all the time, and we have, every time they've asked us for any kind of information or what,
Mm-hmm.
we respond right away. Another example, sometimes customers have issues with the product. It just happens, right?
Yes, yes.
And they ask you to respond within 24 hours. Sometimes we respond within an hour and tell the customer, thank you for letting us help solve the problem rather than
Right.
just giving us negative feedback. That doesn't do anything, right? We want to solve whatever issue it is that they're having. And most of the time the customers walk away very happy
Mm-hmm.
with the result of us trying to solve the problem. And I apologize, my dog is going to start barking right now.
Okay. How did you know, Lance, how much to sell your product for on Amazon? I know
Oh,
earlier you
that's
stated,
that's that's a great
okay,
question.
go
That
ahead.
Yeah, yeah. No, go ahead. Finish your question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know early in the conversation you said you dropped it a couple dollars from the wholesaler to edge them out, but how did you figure out how to sell Millie's sipping broth for?
Yeah. So a couple of things when you're starting with a product, and this is something we've learned, and I got to tell you, my wife and I, we don't consider ourselves entrepreneurs. We consider ourselves problem solvers,
Hmm.
and we have to look at a couple of things that are going on. First off, what would we pay for our own product? That was a starting point, right? And we had some basis, right, from the Pike Place market, what people would pay for our product. And so it was kind of like a shot in the dark, really,
Okay.
because what we were creating there was nothing like what we were creating. It's not like we could go and say, okay, if we're making another barbecue sauce, what are all the barbecue sauces selling for, right?
Right.
Like that. We had to kind of just take a stab at what was something that was more premium, right? Because we're offering something that's a premium product that is going to appeal to people who are okay taking a risk with, let's say, spending $15, and that's
Hmm.
what we started at.
Okay.
So um, as we started getting more customers, hearing the feedback that we were getting, we realized that we needed to start being a little more cost conscious. And we started bringing in specialty retailers who wanted to carry our products. So this would be gift shops. This would be, you know, maybe tea shops, where people are used to spending a lot of money on special stuff. And we
Right.
started hearing about the price point and everything like that. So that's when we started adjusting the prices, and also our costs started going down as well. So, and then so we would start bringing the cost down. And to a point where, and we didn't have any competition really at that, but we also were worried that if we started getting competition, we didn't want to be so high that it would be easy for someone to come in and just undercut us.
Hmm.
So we were looking at ways to bring the cost down to appeal to a wider and wider market, while it being kind of like a preemptive way to, make sure that people didn't, come and take our business away from us. So it really was like let's test the market and, kind of see. So there really wasn't a perfect, answer to that, but I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Are you able to, I know, you kind of started at $15 and then adjusted. Are you able to change your prices at will on Amazon, or can you
Oh
change, you
yeah.
have to change
Oh
it
yeah.
like every 30 days?
No,
Okay.
no, no. You have full. They have the Amazon has something called dynamic pricing. You can subscribe to their algorithm and it will change it for you by the minute. It's really, yeah, it's very interesting. Now we don't do that, but it's a different world out there when it comes to the online marketplaces now versus, let's say, 5 years ago. I mean, it was, things are different now, and for good or bad. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, you're not locked into a certain price.
And what about the taxes? How are the taxes tabulated? How do you pay taxes when you're selling on Amazon? Because it's a virtual platform.
Yeah, so Amazon takes the taxes out for you. Part of the fees that you pay, and there are various ways to work with them, but part of the fees that you pay, um, the consumer who buys on the Amazon platform,
Mhm.
they will take the appropriate tax out, and you just get the net proceeds less the Amazon fees. So you don't have to worry about the tax, because the tax thing is a whole other mess.
It is.
Yeah, it's a really big deal.
It really is because I don't know if they're still in court fighting about it now, but it was, do you take the taxes based off where the seller is located? Do you take the tax based off where the consumer is buying? It's a whole thing with taxes. Now you've mentioned fees, Lance, that you pay to Amazon. What are these fees? Can you give us like a guesstimate of how much you pay and how often do you pay?
So there's various ways of working with Amazon. I'll break it into two. It's called fulfilled by merchant
Okay.
or fulfilled by Amazon. So FBM or FBA. So fulfilled by merchant means that we're drop shipping the item. So Amazon will take the order, they transmit the order to us. We have a certain amount of time in order to fill the order, put a shipping label on it, and get it out the door. Okay. And so those fees are lower than the fulfilled by Amazon, because it's our responsibility to do that labor. It's our responsibility to warehouse the product, and take it to the post office or UPS or whatever. Okay. Um, when when you do fulfilled by Amazon, you are taking your product in bulk and sending it to Amazon fulfillment centers. They will, if you've ever seen videos of how they fill orders, they put it into this. It's called a random sort. So they'll put it into these bins on these robotic shelves,
Correct.
and so they put them in there. Those shelves go away until there's an order for that product, and it'll come to a warehouse person who picks it, or a robot that picks it and then puts it in. So you pay a higher fee for that because they're also paying for the shipping, and it's their own shipping network that you're using.
That's
um,
understandable.
the
Yes.
benefit of using their system, the FBA, is because you qualify for Amazon Prime, which means that people can get a product within a day or two
Correct.
much faster than we could ever do it ourselves through the US Postal Service. Even if we filled the order the same day, there's
Hmm.
no way we can get it to you that fast, like they can.
So, if someone who's listening right now, and again, we are talking to the people that you have a product, most likely a food product, and you're wanting to get it sold on Amazon or a platform very similar to Amazon. That's who we're talking about, and that's who we're talking to right now. What's the first thing they need to do? They have this product, this food product, they want to sell it on Amazon. What's the first thing they need to do?
Don't quit their day job. I'm really serious about that because
Yes.
people have these false hopes
Hmm.
of this is going to take care of all my problems, and no, it's not. Do not quit your day. That's the first thing you should do.
Okay.
um,
Okay. So what's the second thing they do? Don't quit your day job. And the second thing you do.
you have to figure out whether the packaging and the price is going to fit the market that is going to buy it. So that's really what, and it's a dance, and there's no exact way of doing it, right? But what Lori and I say to people is, if you have an idea, even if 100 people all are going to sell the exact same item, if you blend your personality with that item, it makes it unique and distinct. So that is really the second thing you need to do, is you need to figure out how to differentiate your product amongst all the other ones, whether it's what they call a challenger product, right? So let's say you have another barbecue. I like bringing up barbecue sauces because it's kind of fun. If you have a barbecue sauce that's going to challenge, let's say, KC Masterpiece,
Right.
why? What is the big difference, right? And really being able to articulate that very quickly, like our 2 to 5 seconds, right?
Hmm.
So you need to have that in hand. So and that will make you stand out with your product on Amazon, because people are going to seek you out, right? They're going to seek you out because of that difference.
What would you say has been the change in you, if there's anything, has been a change in you, Llance, through this journey of creating Millie Sipping Broth in your kitchen, in your home during COVID to where you are now?
I think that if you've watched the latest season of White Lotus, there
I have
is a
not.
you have not. Okay, I won't give anything away,
Okay.
but there's a lot of Buddhist kind of stuff going on,
Okay.
and the only what I think realized is that if you put your intentions out into the universe there and listen very carefully, you will see the path. You will hear how to move forward. And I've kind of learned to just do that, because sometimes you're faced with these things like, you got to pay your bills, you got,
Hmm.
issues come up that you just can't control. And you just got to trust that your intentions will be met with the right response. And sometimes it's really difficult to just let go of that. But I'll tell you, I think that's probably what's gotten us through everything. I mean, the latest thing with all the tariffs that are going on is frightening, because it means that costs are going to go up way out of our control. But you know what? Everyone else is in the same boat. So we just have to
Exactly.
trust that it's just gonna the flow is going to work. And so adopting that idea of just putting out your intentions is probably the biggest thing I've learned.
How do you feel about yourself personally, Llance, knowing that you and your wife created something out of nothing and now it's selling on Amazon? It's going to be in Walmart. Like, these great things are happening for you. And I know it's been years. It's not, something that just happened. It's been years in the making, a lot of hard work, a lot of trial and error. I acknowledge that. But where you are right now, how does that feel personally for you, knowing all you've accomplished?
I feel that sometimes we have to pinch ourselves because we we're just here every day trying to, like I said, put our intentions out there, make sure we follow through. We're very focused on customer feedback and quality, right? Those are the only things we can control. And so when big things happen like that, like, getting into 2000 Walmart stores, having our product on the shelf next to Campbell's Soup, which is a multi-billion-dollar company, and
Yes.
we're sitting there with our little sipping broth idea, right, on the shelf, and people from the industry are going, oh, they're starting to pay attention, going, wait, this is could be like the next big thing. Um, we do pinch ourselves, and we kind of take a humble approach to that, because whatever happens, right? I could get off this interview with you and we could get some amazing news.
Hmm.
The next minute after that, we could get something that's like, oh no, you got to take care of this problem. So it's kind of like a very humbling. We try to keep ourselves on a very equal plane,
Okay.
and be ready for anything. And I think that's probably what, I've learned the most, is to just kind of don't seek out the highs, and just get ready to kind of keep yourself at neutral, and things will just, you'll be able to take them. And we sincerely appreciate all of the luck and attention. Yesterday I was getting ready for this very big presentation and realized there have been a lot of people that have gone out of their way to help us along the way.
Hmm.
And it's sometimes you kind of look back, and you just, you're so appreciative at the moment, but then you kind of look back and go, wow, that really helped us get to this point. And you have to
Yes.
acknowledge that, and when people look to you to help, I instantly will help them out in any way I possibly can. That's why I was just so excited about doing your interview, because I feel like, whatever information we can share, I may not meet them
Right.
personally, through you and your audience. We would love to share that, because that's how we learned as well.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Lance, for freely sharing and giving of your knowledge in this process. I have a couple questions for you, and then I'll let you go.
Sure.
What is your intention? I think maybe you just answered it, really, but if you could just elaborate on it a little bit more. What is your intention in this space?
So, when we had the idea, Lori had the idea of this savory kind of way to recharge during the day.
Hmm.
What we realized was there was no hot savory category for a drink.
Hmm.
Okay, there's soup, there's cooking broth, there's, all this broth stuff that's made, that was for different purposes. There's
Exactly.
coffee, tea, your beloved hot chocolate.
Yay!
um, um, but there was a gap. And so our intention really was to give people a new option that would make them feel satisfied, comforted, to take care of, some anxiety, maybe, to kind of be served. That's why we named it Millie's,
Hmm.
because my mother-in-law, she's no longer with us. That's what she wanted. She wanted to take care of you with food and keep you comforted, right? And I think now more than ever, we need more comforting ways to, take care of our
You are
mental
right.
health, our physical health, and all that kind of stuff. So our intention really is to establish this savory hot drink category. We want to be the leaders in this idea, to bring it to, the world, really, starting here in Bellevue, Washington, and to see where we can go. There's all kinds of fun things. We only have 4 flavors right now.
Mhm.
We just, you're just putting this tea bag in a mug, right? That's the simple idea. Well, you can blend it with protein and have an amazing drink. You can cook with it. You can use it as a seasoning. There's so many things that we can do with it. But just focusing on that simple idea of making people feel comforted and to give them a way to recharge the the single best idea that we can put out there.
Yes. Lance, this is the idea of it is such a great idea. If
Thank
I
you.
can help you and your wife, Lori, in any way, on my platform, even off the platform, please let me know. I would absolutely love to be able to assist and help grow however I can.
Well, we got to make sure you get some samples so that you integrate broth between cups of hot chocolate.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. And between my podcasts, because I need
yes.
it. Between my
Yes.
podcasts, I need it.
or,
Yes.
or if you're flying, or if you're in the company break room,
Yes.
pretty much anywhere where you just want to take a break. Yes, that's where we need to start.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, my final question for you, Lance. Who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast? But you have to help me get them on.
So my virtual CFO, Craig Levin, who has an amazing story of coming from uh, corporate, like big time corporate
Mhm.
finance, to working in the cannabis industry, to now being a fractional CFO for companies like ours. He's seen it all, and the bottom line with him is it doesn't matter, marketing hype and fluff and all that kind of stuff. He looks at numbers, and the numbers tell the story. And so he's the guy that really knows what's going on. And so he's a great guy.
I cannot wait to get Mr. Craig Levine on the podcast. Thank you so much for making that connection when you do. And thank you again for being on the podcast and giving us so much information about getting products onto Amazon.
Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you to my community. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching and listening and learning. You can get Lance's podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.